Welcome to this StormFX video. I am going to give you an overview of Editshare and how it integrates with Adobe Premiere CS6. I'm going to start the presentation by launching the Editshare Connect application. With this application I can connect to the Editshare storage, and in this case I have a user called Editor. Depending on the permissions of this user, he can mount specific volumes. In this case I have two: the Storm project volume, which is something that was set up previously, an unmanaged volume, which I'm going to explain later, and my own very private files as a network drive as well. So I'm going to mount this with the SMB protocol. Editshare suggests and recommends to use a product called Dave to further enhance and tune the SMB protocol for video work. That's why the mount here is called Dave SMB. Once I have done that, the network shares will appear here on the top right, and I can either open a project by double-clicking on my project space here in the top right, or I can continue to use this Connect application and go to the Project tab. I select the network share with the project. In this case I only have one, and I can see all the current projects that are available. The projects show up with a typical lock. This is going to be important to visualize the project locking that is available with Editshare. At this point I could keep this window open, or I just pop out the important part, namely the project browser, and continue to work with this somewhere here on the side. If I want to launch Premiere, I just double click on my project, in this case the project editor 1. It will ask me if I want to take ownership of the project, or if I only want to read the project, not really do any changes. So of course I would like to start working with that project, and I'm going to open it. You will see immediately that the lock will turn green, and Adobe Premiere will open, in this case with an empty project. From here I can start to do my first editing if I want. I'm going to add some clips to the project. The 3 clips have been selected that I want to work with, and I place them into my timeline. And here they are. So it's fairly straightforward. I work as if all the clips were local and not on the network. Currently I'm working over a 1 gig E connection. Editshare would allow you to connect over 10 gig E, which allows uncompressed workflows in very high resolutions. So at this point let me save my project and take a look at another user who may want to work with the same project. Let me minimize this project and log on using VNC to a different computer. Here it is. I have already launched Editshare Connect. I have already my project browser open, and you can see immediately that here on the assistant computer the project has a red lock, which means that I can only open it as read-only, which I'm going to do now. So if I double click on that very same project is read-only, open anyway, yes, I would like to. Premiere is going to start, and I will be able to play back the project. Here's the project on the other machine. It's a little bit cut off because I am logged in remotely, but for demonstration purposes, I think this visualizes everything quite beautifully. So at this stage I could, well, I can't save the project as it is because it is currently being used by another user. But if I want to apply changes, save as, Assistant Project 2. Instantly you will see that in the Editshare project browser this project will appear. So it's all in real time, and that's the nice part, as well as a clear indication who is the owner of that project. In this case, it's the assistant, so the editor is not able to change this. However, if the assistant decides to pass on ownership, he can simply turn the lock yellow again. Instantly you will see that the editor will be notified and now can open the very same project and take ownership of that project, which I'm going to do now here on the left hand side. And essentially I have the very same project which I can play back in real time easily on my machine over the network. So in a nutshell, this is the overview of how project sharing with Adobe Premiere works. It's very straightforward, it's very easy, it's very seamless, and the question now may be, how do you create users, how do you manage media spaces? And that's something I would like to show next. If I want to create media spaces and users on the Editshare Central Storage, I can VNC into the storage. This is how the user interface would look like. I have the possibility to work with managed and unmanaged spaces. Before I explain the differences, let's simply create new media spaces for maybe new editors or new projects. Okay, I'm going to create a media space. I'm going to call it demo, and I'm going to select a location on the Editshare server. I'm going to set a quota, in this case 500 gigabytes. It doesn't really matter because I can change it anytime if I require more, and add it to the system. I receive a confirmation down here that everything went fine, and now I need to assign the users that are supposed to use that specific media space. So here's my media space, and currently I only have two, and one that has been newly created. I don't want to add single users. I would like to select multiple at a time, so I simply go into a spreadsheet here and simply say, please add these 3 users to that media space. Again, users added, I get a confirmation, and that's all I need to do. I have created a new media space. If I want to enable project sharing, I need to do this in a different tab because the Editshare system needs to manage the current ownership of the projects. That's why I have a specific tab for this. I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be my demo project, and I would like to have this project type lockable. I'm going to add it to the system. Again, I receive a confirmation down here, and I need to add users to that project space. So I'm going to select it and add multiple users again at a time, 3 of them, and say OK. There's one more thing that needs to be done, and that's this option down here. Editshare has created a project space, but not really, let's call it a project pool that it can oversee. So I'm going to go in here and say, please create a shared project. I'm going to call it project 1, and here it is. What Editshare creates here is a folder in the demo project media space, or project space in this case, that is used to oversee all the projects that are currently being used. So if I exit out and mount this, I can see my new demo space or demo project and my media space. And the project that we just created using the Editshare management user interface is simply an empty folder. This is basically what Editshare requires to manage the ownership of projects, and all the projects that I create with Premiere are placed in this specific folder. There's one more thing that I would like to mention, and it's related to the management of the media spaces. I do not really require to use VNC all the time to create media spaces. I could give a user limited admin permissions and capabilities to create user and media spaces. For example, if I simply log out and log back in, but this time maybe as an admin, I have a new tab, and this tab has been assigned maybe by the IT administrator who doesn't want to bother to create media spaces all the time. This could be maybe assigned to a supervisor or a teacher, and in here I have very similar menus that allow me to create users, quotas, and so on. So I do not necessarily need to VNC into the Editshare system all the time to create these media spaces, and that's something that I think is worth mentioning. And last but not least, quickly an explanation: why do you have unmanaged spaces and why do you have over here managed spaces? The user interface is very similar. The only difference is that with managed spaces, only the user that creates media can delete that media. That can be quite handy if you have an ingest workstation and you want to make sure that only the system that creates and ingests the data can delete it. So far so good. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Thank you for watching.